Hello YouTube. A while back I harvested some Amadou and I put up a video of that. I will post it in the description box below. And this video is going to be about how I process the Amadou and extract the Amadou layer from the horse hoof tinder fungus. As you can see, there's different forms of the tinder fungus. This is a big sort of perfectly formed one. Small formed one. There's ones that are more irregular shape and kind of mutated looking, but I thought I'd start with sort of the perfectly formed ones to show you the inside of the horsehoof fungus that exists in my area. By the way, I'm in the city here at home. I'm in a high density urban area, so please excuse all the urban noises here. This is a cross section of this tinder fungus. The Amadou layer is this light brown layer right on the towards the outside here, and this area here are the spore tubes. It's the Amadou that we're after, although I should say that the spore tubes are also good at carrying fire and carrying an ember when it's dry, although it's the Amadou that is the layer that takes the spark easy for traditional fire making. You'll notice on this big conk here, the Amadou is surprisingly small and very, very thin on the lower part. The largest area is right here, but it's not very much. On this smaller one, there is a proportionally larger piece of Amadou, and I've found, and I'm a beginner with this stuff, that each conk is unique, and some have very large areas of Amadou and some have smaller. So you don't know until you crack into them what you're getting. I've tried a variety of techniques to extract the Amadou, and I'm going to show you the two techniques that I'm using so far. One is to smash the entire conk, and you leave the hard cortex on. You don't worry about peeling it, and but you break it up and it turns into a soft leathery piece, and you're accessing the Amadou from the inside. Another method is to, with your knife, slice off the outer cortex and to access the Amadou inside. And here's some examples here where I've sliced off the outer cortex, and in this example the Amadou is very, very thin, and there's still a lot of spore tubes on it, which are very hard to get off. They don't just pull off. If you pull these off, they'll rip apart, they'll rip away some of this thin layer. So there's advantages and disadvantages to this method, to both methods, and we'll try making fire with each one of those. So the first method I'm going to try here is the method of smashing the conk, and at home here I'm using a little sledgehammer here in the bush. I always carry my axe, and I could use that to smash it, but just for practice here at home, it's a little easier to use the big surface area of the sledge. So here goes. Okay, we're gonna smash it more than this, but this little conk here has quite a bit of Amadou in it. That'll be relatively easy to go after. So I'm gonna smash this even more, and the outer cortex will crack. There's a piece that broke off. There's a little thin piece of Amadou in there, but it's not worth going after. It's just too much. It's just impossible to get at. I'm interested in this big thick piece up here, so I'll smash that down a bit more. If you didn't have a sledge, well, you won't have a sledge in the bush, but if you don't have an axe with you, obviously a big rock would make quick work of this. A smooth rock, so you don't cut the Amadou up too much. Okay, so let's see what we got here. It's flattened out a bit, and what I want to get rid of are these spore tubes here. very thin here. That's a lot of work to do. So I'm mostly gonna go after this top end here. Now it's you gotta be real careful. It's really easy to slice your fingers, so you gotta just gotta be really careful, and don't get, for safety purposes, I don't get too worried about the small bits of Amadou that I'm gonna miss here. There's usually plenty of this in the bush, and I'm not worried about wasting it. See, even a technique up here, I'm getting close to my fingers here, so it's a little bit difficult to do. Very sharp knife works best, of course. Oh, now that piece broke off, so let's see what I got here. I didn't get much on this break-off piece. I almost feel like throwing this away. I'll show you what happens when you try to peel the spore tubes off. They actually peel up a good chunk of the Amadou, and there's not much left. Now, if this is all you had, you'd salvage this, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to go after the big piece here. There's some unknown stuff here. That's maybe rotten Amadou, so I'll just see if I can slice that away. There's remarkably little. I broke that off, and it's, well, I can use the outer part of this. I'm just gonna clean it up a bit more. I'm gonna actually leave some of the spore tubes on. I'm just going to leave that as is, because I can rough up that surface if need be, but this is not a good piece. Okay, let's see what else I can get here. I like a knife shape with a deep belly, because I can get up in a vertical position here and kind of shave things off. But it's surprising how, when you get down to it, how little there actually is on some of these. So there's my outer cortex here. Another way to use this for catching a spark is to just leave it like this and peel and rip, and you'll get some exposure of the Amadou right under this hard cortex. Let's try to shave off a bit more of these spore tubes. There's still a lot of them in there, and if I try to pull them out, they rip off a big chunk of Amadou. So there's some nice stuff there, and this is where it gets very difficult. So you want to make sure you're behind your knife. This is almost getting not worth it, but I'll pry that off. You don't want to rush this, because my fingers are very close to the knife blade and I'm cutting away. So after all that, working on half of it, I got a piece here which is not great. Got a piece here which is pretty good, and I think, well, I was going to say I think I'll leave some of that on, but I'll see if I can take a bit more of it off. There. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I can split this and get some edge exposure on this, so that's not too bad. And I can rough this up to catch a spark. This piece here is a little hard to work with, but I'll keep these 3 pieces. So that's all I got off of half of this. Here's a small one here. Let's try the carving technique. Most of the good stuff is going to be at the top end here, so that's what I'll go after. There's lots of usable Amadou in these slices, so you can keep those too. It's hard cutting this curved surface. Okay, so that's all Amadou here, but there'll be spore tubes right under it. I'll do a cross section, see what it looks like. There it is there, and then there's some junk in there, rotten stuff. So we'll just see that just crumbled right out. It was rotten. Look at that, still not much. Mostly all spores, or spore tubes, to see if I can clean off this cortex a bit. You can't rush this, gotta be real careful of the fingers. A little carving knife might be a better option here. Okay, that's about all I can get from that. So there's enough surface there to work with, I think. So this is what I came up with today, and I'll put this aside and dry it in my house. But meanwhile, I can work with some pieces that I extracted a while ago. So here's a piece with the cortex left on, and with the spore tubes mostly removed from the inside, and I can rough that up. And here's a piece with the spore tubes left on and the cortex sliced off to produce this smooth, shiny surface which I can rough up. Lonnie at Fresh Air posted a really neat video on preparing Amadou here, and he used a saw. I forget if it was from a Swiss Army knife or a multi-tool. I'll put the link to Fresh Air's video down below, and the saw was a pretty neat tool to rough up the surface. Now I'm trying to leave these shavings actually on the piece of Amadou, as opposed to creating a fluffy pile of it, but you can do it different ways. Now with the fire steel, remember these are dry, not the ones I processed today. So with a fire steel, I've been finding that it's quite easy to get these going. There we go. So it's going good. But the whole idea with Amadou is to use a flint and steel striker. Let's do one more with the fire steel, or the ferro rod I should say. I'll let that just smoke away. This is the piece with the cortex left on in the inside. It's already quite rough, but we'll rough it up a bit more here. It's a lot easier to rough up from the inside. Look at that. Look at that woolly, fluffy stuff here. It's actually coming off. I better leave that in there. Coal's growing there. This one's starting to take off here. Okay, so that's with the ferro rod. That's quite easy. To date, I'm a beginner with Amadou and flint and steel, or chert and steel. I have not been able to get the Amadou to take a spark, so I'll try it again here. I'm going to fuzz it up on the edge. There's lots of surface area here to catch. There's one, there's another one here that I'll prepare. I actually get sparks landing and burning, but then they go out because they're so small off the steel, unlike a ferro rod spark, which is a big glob of molten metal that easily takes. So here, I'll try this first with my chert. Get my lanyard out of the way here. Okay. So I'm getting lots of sparks hitting it. I'll flip it over here, see if that makes a difference. Anyways, nothing happening there. Let me try the other piece here. Nope. Let me try the flint. That was chert. Let's try the flint. Close it up again here. There, I just saw several sparks actually land in the fuzz and sit there. Oh, there's one. See, that it actually, camera won't see it, but actually burnt, but went out. So I guess that's where the processing, boiling in ash, comes in for these tiny, tiny sparks. Yeah, I'm getting several landing right on it. Burning a micro piece and then extinguishing. Yeah, I can see several black, actually about a dozen black char marks where the sparks hit, but didn't take. So I guess charring is the next step, which would be pretty dependable, just as Mike from Bushcraft Barton shows. And certainly with this chert and this piece of flint here, I have no problem with char cloth. But for some reason, I'm just not getting a take. Like I said, lots of burn holes right in there, but not take. Okay, I know you guys want to see some fire from this Amadou, so I got lots of supplies at home here. I got some dry grass to make a tinder bundle nest out of, and I'll start shredding up some birch bark here and be back in a minute with a test of the Amadou here. Oh yeah, and I got some cattail around here, so I think I'll add some cattail fluff to the nest as well. Back in a minute. Okay, I got a piece of Amadou roughed up here. Let's get it going. Okay, I think it's going. Okay, that's probably secure enough to put in the bundle. Dry grass, some cattail and cedar bark. Make sure I don't put my Amadou out there. Okay, gonna move the camera over to a safer spot so I don't burn my house down. Okay. There we go. Grass is pretty dry.